myself and handed my CV to someone. And as I said, that was 100 and what, over 100 places that I visited and handed over 100 CVs to someone. And it's not easy because a lot of companies you go to, you open the reception door and there's just a laptop on the table. And that's it. That's your reception. You got no idea of who you're visiting and who you're going to see. So I had him come up with some really suggestive names that I just entered in there randomly. And 9 out of 10 times I used my own surname. So when the guys rocked up to the reception to collect me, I'll say, well, sorry, I entered my own surname there. My surname's Smith. And we broke ice. Normally it was someone named Smith who arrived at the reception, and then we got talking.
Whoa,
and it was because of
creative.
the so because of the New Zealand nature being so helpful, they were like, hey mate, don't worry, let me get the right person for you. And they would put me on to the right person. Sometimes you would have a door slam in your face, but it was a case of just really pleading with them, talking to them, and they really helped us, helped me to get to talk to someone, whether it was someone in HR or someone in the department that needs an electrician or needs a facilities manager or something like that. So it was very interesting the way that they assisted me in that. And yeah, geographically planned my route and nailed every place. Then moved towns, Auckland. From Auckland, I went down to Wellington, to Hamilton, then down to Wellington, then down to Christchurch, then down to Dunedin, then down to Invercargill. So we did a lot of low flying, which is a problem, yeah, because the speed limit is just outrageously slow. And yeah, we got around and got to see everyone that was on my list. And then you also walk into places and they go, no, don't worry, there's another place that you can go try. And then they give you a referral. So you go to another and another and another, but you got to keep pushing the envelope. If you sit in the hotel room, you're not going to find a job. We left when the sun came up and we came back when the sun was down. There was no other doors open every day. Yeah. So for 2 weeks I worked hard. I took the time out as well on the weekends, to go and have a look at all the beautiful places. And yeah, that's what made my decision. When those offers came from each and every region of New Zealand, I could make my decision where I'd like to live, And it's a temporary, in my mind, it was, okay, I only need to stay in somewhere for the 2 years because I'm looking for a work to residency visa. So I'm tied to a company for 2 years. I want to make it comfortable where I am for 2 years, but in saying that, it's only 2 years. So if it were really uncomfortable, you can bite the bullet for 2 years and move on. But yeah, I think I'm really happy with the company I selected at the end of the day.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that, the selection that you made? You had 6 choices. How did you choose that? And anything else you want to tell us?
Well, out of the choices, I laid the cards on the table and I had a look at the salaries. I mean, money talks, So I had a look at what the salaries were, and the low end of the salaries, I kind of moved them off the table. The jobs that were in between, between the top and the bottom of the list, they were pretty much the same. It would take $1 or $2 an hour here and there. So, in my mind, I was saying, well, it's about the same. Then I kind of said, okay, which town would I like to live in? And I weighed up the pros and cons. Living in Auckland is like living in Johannesburg on steroids. The traffic is insane. So wherever you go, you got to add an hour to everything because it's just so difficult to get through the traffic. Parking was ridiculous expensive. It was really hectic. So that kind of went to the bottom of the list, Auckland. And then I had a look at where I could get around and what I could do in the shortest amount of time, and that brought up Christchurch and Wellington. We're on a real nice path. Wellington had a little bit of extra traffic, but it was a fantastic job that I had there. Had an offer there at the university, so I was really weighing up that one. And at the end of the day, out of the ones that were left, I had to look at which of those were actually registered with the immigration and had done all their homework. And so I ended up in Christchurch, and I ended up with Caterpillar, and they were registered. At Caterpillar, there's more Afrikaans-speaking people than Kiwis, actually. so, so there's a lot of us South Africans working in one place. So they've been through the pain of getting us all there. They know exactly how to do it and what's going on. So that made up my mind, take the smoothest transition to getting into New Zealand with someone that knows what they're doing and helping you. When I spoke to the other companies and they weren't registered, explained the challenges to them around their advertising the job, this job spec having to be aligned to me so that they could justify and motivate why they needed me as a person from another country as opposed to employing a Kiwi. I explained all the challenges around that, and they were very accommodating. Some of them were like a little bit gritty and grinding their teeth a little bit, going, "Oh, I didn't realize it was such a schlep," and all the rest of it. It's not really a schlep, but in Kiwi terms, everything is a schlep because you've got to do something. So I'm good now, but yeah. So it was just the quickest choice is to go with a registered company. But the other guys, they were very accommodating if I decided to go with any of them anyway. So yeah, that was the transition where I ended up in Christchurch.
Among your own people that know you, the familiarity and attitude of work is similar. You have a work-life. What do you think? Do you want to speak to the work-life balance? Does it exist?
Work-life. Here they're very structured when it comes to it's now smoker, which is tea break, or whether it's lunchtime, whether it's smoker in the afternoon. They're very balanced in the sense that they respect those times as personal times. They don't work through tea times, through lunch times, late for any reason other than there's a real emergency. Where in South Africa, you just work, you're just getting stuff done. And if you're in the middle of something, you don't stop until you're satisfied that you can stop. Where here, you've got to take on a little bit of a different kind of attitude toward you need to take a break and you need to refresh before you can carry on with the job. It took a bit of a while to adapt to that. And it was like weekend work. I knew I had jobs that were outstanding and I was a little bit behind during the week. And I was like, yeah, I'll get it done on the weekend. And they were like, well, you don't have to come in on the weekend. You don't have to work overtime. And it was very refreshing to be part of a company that, and they kind of understand that you need your own life as well, where everywhere else is you have to get this done. And here it's your prerogative. If you're going to work through your own personal time, yeah, you get paid for it, but still it's a different mindset of the workload.
Responsibilities compared to South Africa, compared to now. You were a top facilities manager, the largest privately held building. You built it yourself from a facilities perspective. You operated it, managed it. You did everything. You were the facilities guy and at the top of your position in a whole country. Then you come here. It's going to be hard to satisfy an astronaut with the challenges of being an astronaut. So what's it like an astronaut coming to New Zealand, so to speak, as a metaphor, with this big experience? And then you're more hands-on now. Do you want to give some insights? What's going through your mind? Is this something that you're happy to do because you enjoy it? What is your responsibilities like? Maybe we can start there.
Look, coming from the top of the food chain, being in upper management and then coming to joining a company at the bottom of the food chain in order to get residents into a beautiful country, I feel was well worth it. I have no reason to say I'm beneath doing what I'm doing now, or I'm too big to do what I'm doing now. I kind of adopt the attitude that, yeah, I've stepped back quite a few steps in life, in career, but knowing that New Zealand is about 10 years behind in technology and growth, and the size of the infrastructure here is a lot smaller. I'm looking forward to the growth over the next 10 years where I can be part of that growth. And I've already been down the road and I know what I can add to it. I'm going to add value to the growth of New Zealand, and I'm going to be part of a new generation of all of us South Africans arriving. And you know, it's going to be a great journey, I think. If you get lucky and get a big job here, bigger than what you got there, count yourself very lucky. New Zealand's very small, and it's a growing country. It's expanding. The technology is getting better. So you know, you can only but grow with that. And you know, even though I'm on the tools, it doesn't mean that I'm not thinking like a manager. So it still means that I can add value to where I am, make sure that what I do is at the best. And thinking as a manager, I can put my own manager hat on and say, how would I manage myself in order to get this specific task done in such a time or at the best value, how I can save costs, you know, and in time, the businesses will see, you know, what we're about, and they will feed off that, and you'll grow within your position. I mean, it doesn't matter where you go, which company you go to. If you got that attitude, that winning attitude to get to the top, you're not going to sit in the workshop all the time. You know, eventually you're going to start climbing the ladder, and if they don't realize what you're worth, you know, you can move on. You haven't got chains on. You know what I'm saying? So the nice thing is that I've been there a real short time now. It's just going on to 7 months, and they're seeing the value of what I'm, you know, worth, and they're putting me through all different courses, and they're putting me through all accreditations, and they're getting me up to speed with what the equipment does because they can see value in me. And all the companies do that. You know, they want to have top employees, and if they can see that you're worth what you do, then they're going to invest in you.
That's really gratifying to hear. All companies do that. So that's the flavor that you've got in your contact network.
Yes. Yeah.
People who are in middle to upper middle, who are nearly determined to be managing Kiwis from day one. And when I introduce it strongly or not strongly or creatively or softly, these people sometimes just get offended. I just sometimes can't communicate that. Sometimes I can, but sometimes I can't. What can you say to those who won't accept coming in and doing something other than day one managing a bunch of Kiwis? You know what I mean?
Well, look, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Managing people in South Africa is completely different to managing people here in New Zealand. I don't care whether you've come from real top upper management and you're managing top management, or you top management managing people slightly lower down the food chain. I say food chain, but you know what I mean. So the thing is, here you have a different approach of how you address people, how your expectations are of what the people are doing, and you can't go, come, hurry up, because there's none of that. The guys here know exactly how long it takes to do every task and how it longs to achieve something. And if they're developing something, they give a certain time span on that, and they live by that. You got to understand those parameters. Every business you work for, time is money, but they know exactly how much time they're going to take for each task. So managing people in South Africa is this rush, hurry up and get it done. Where here is you have a task, you know how long it's going to take, make sure it's done within that time, unless certain issues crop up, or if you have a storm, if you're outside, or if you're short of parts, or you're battling to get costings or something like that. So there's a complete different mindset on managing Kiwis and managing South Africans. So as a manager, you have to learn to adapt, because you are now in New Zealand, you're not in South Africa. You can't treat people the same. There's a complete different culture. And you have to literally put on the mindset that I'm now accepting the New Zealand culture. I'm going to support New Zealand in everything I do, because New Zealand is going to provide for me in the future. So I need to think like a Kiwi. And in saying that, a lot of stuff, you can keep your South African motivation and drive, which makes you shine above everyone else. But you also have to be careful of that, because as soon as you outshine the local Kiwis, they also take offense. So you got to be very careful of how you shine, because it's better to make the Kiwis look better than yourself by what you do, because they really go out to help you if that's the case, you know. Yeah, so that's been my experience being managed by a Kiwi, and my thought train around how I would have managed Kiwi if I was in a higher position. So it's actually maybe a blessing in disguise that I've come down the food chain a bit and hopefully go back into a managerial position.
Conquering the ego, a high achiever conquering the ego. Well done. That may be your biggest battle, even bigger than actually achieving itself, because the temptation is to think that you're always going to be there just because you deserve it. But you go to a new country and you start with a fresh slate. It's a hard pill to swallow. Well done.
You know, yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people, you know, that I've spoken to in South Africa said, I'm immigrating to New Zealand. I'm going to, you know, a beautiful place. And they go, yeah, I'll only go if I get a good offer. And so, well, then, you know, good luck where you are. If you're not prepared to understand that you are going to somewhere there that you have to start over, it's not that I'm starting over, it's just that I'm starting afresh. You can't take my knowledge away, you can't take my manager experience away, you can't take all the experience of what I've built and created away from me. It's just that all that knowledge, I have to start afresh to apply it to new situations. So, you know, I really am looking forward to the growth in this country, because there's so many people coming in. It has to expand, it has to grow. And the most fantastic thing is about when you watch TV and you see how the governments, and you see how the different departments, and you see how different regions, they all look after the country. That's their main focus and interest. When the people talk, they listen. They evaluate and they kind of work around it, but they always come out on top in the people's interest, which has really been refreshing. In this short time that we've been here, we've seen this kind of thing. Take the tragedy that happened in Christchurch with the mosque shootings. I mean, that was a tragedy beyond. But out of that, with the way the government reacted, straight away, they implemented gun control, they implemented certain security, they implemented stuff. You know, you don't see that kind of government response in South Africa. You don't see that instantaneous something's going to be sorted out or some kind of solution happening, you know. It's really refreshing to know that they're looking after you. So the country's going to grow. We've got great backing from government. Our knowledge as South Africans coming in, you know, we put it all together, we're going to have a great place, an even greater place.
Even greater place. Looking forward. That's the way to go when you're starting afresh. You don't regret things. That's a waste of energy, isn't it? You're looking forward.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You gotta have the right mindset. The minute we made the decision we are leaving South Africa, we took everything that was in South Africa, we left it behind, and we started afresh. Didn't mean that we didn't arrive with any cash in our pocket and you're starting with nothing. It means that you're now starting afresh in a country that, you foreign to. No one owes you anything. No one owes you anything here. You have to make it happen for yourself. You know what I'm saying? So if you've got the right attitude, it'll happen.
Let's talk about the courses. Investing in staff, is that something that's quite unique to New Zealand in your experience, or did South Africa also? It seems like quite a lot, even by my measure, the first year in, and you go into a lot of courses. Do you want to address that issue?
Um, yeah, when I was in South Africa, I used to push for education for my staff. I had a nice budget that I could work on education. And every year I would put out to all the staff and say, listen, guys, here's all the courses that you can do from business management right down to basic hand skills. I covered every course that I could, lay my hands on and provide for the teams. But it was a case of, do you guys want to do this? And it was, nah, I'm comfortable where I am, and I'm going to have to do homework. And there was no dedication and commitment to it. Where here in New Zealand, they say, we recognize you as a leader in this space, and we recognize you working in this space. We're happy with you in that space, but you need to know X, Y, and Z. Please, would you go and do it? And the courses that I've done, I think they've totaled up to about $20,000 already. And there's no looking at what they still want me to go and do. No company would throw money at someone if they haven't got the trust in you. And that's the thing. If you're showing the companies that you can achieve what you said you could in your interview, they're going to invest in you, and that's what's happening to me. It's really fantastic to have that kind of backing.
So has Caterpillar won? Has Caterpillar won your loyalty, at least for the foreseeable future?
I think so. As I said with growth, Caterpillar, I've also got the same mindset. They want to grow. They want to expand. So they're looking for people to join them that can add value to that growth. And it's not just Caterpillar. Caterpillar support industry. So industry are demanding the support. So industry is growing. So Cat is following suit. So it's a whole chain of everything growing. With this story now with Corona, it's going to give the whole world economy a bit of a hiding. But, we have to take that one as it comes. But things are happening, things are growing, and it's the mindset of New Zealand, because it's got this influx of skilled people. It can only but get better in that sense. That we built South Africa, now we can continue building a country like New Zealand.
No regrets. Do you think about a home at all?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
You grew up there, your family. How far does your generations go back? I talk to people, sometimes it's 100 years or more.
Well, my great-grandmother, believe it or not, was the first white person born north of the Limpopo River. So she was on the actual great trek that founded Rhodesia with Cecil John Rhodes. She was in the ox wagon. She was born in the ox wagon trail that went and found Rhodesia. So, my heritage has been there forever. And in saying that, our whole family is scattered throughout New Zealand. Our whole family is scattered throughout the world, actually. So you get to think about home and what's left of it. So, that's Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe. There's absolutely nothing left of that. And South Africa, I mean, we hope it doesn't head in the same direction, but at the moment it seems to be on the same road,
So you would say that indicators for South Africa are flat or increasingly getting worse, or any sign of change one way or the other?
Well, the impact of the government support, they're not as supportive as what's happening here in New Zealand. They say they're going to do great stuff, but they kind of fail on their promises. Industry takes a big hiding every time the lights go out, and they're not focusing on keeping industry alive. So, yeah, I would say it's on a downhill spiral, because they're just not making stuff happen. And there's always some kind of excuse why they can't keep the lights on. And I'm only using the lights as an example. The public system, all the rest of it, I don't even have to go into it. But there's so many government departments that have failed and are relying on taxpayers' money to bail them out, where they should be building the country with our taxpaying money.
What's it like being in a country that, from my point of view and my experience, pays as little or nearly zero attention to all this stuff about you? Tries to. My interpretation is the culture doesn't look at your skin color, your background, religion. They try not to. And they look at your talents and how you work well with other people, and if you've got something to offer. And that's pretty much do you see the same thing, or how would you evaluate the differences between, because we have BEE, which is the other side of extreme.
Yeah, the kind of thought train that I have around that is that the companies don't look at any race discrimination, color, or anything like that. They look at skill, and where skill is needed, they train. 9 out of 10 times they're employing someone that's already skilled, and they're going to expand on your skill. And I found that, coming into New Zealand through all those interviews and visits that I went to, they're lacking skills. They're lacking people. But in some areas, they got a surplus of people. So you really have to be able to shine above the other people, especially in the interview process. But there's no holding back on any discrimination at all. They really are accommodating in all aspects that I've found.
Yeah, and I guess there is a little bit of a bump that we all have to go through as foreigners. Like, what kind of a person are we? We have no reputation coming in, so it's up to us to establish that. Benefits are whatever reputation we establish will follow us. It's good, but also it will follow us.
Yeah, that's why I emphasize on the fact that you have to take your hat off as a South African, and you have to put on a New Zealand hat. You got to. It's not that you have to support the New Zealand rugby team, but you have to support. In saying that, I'll tell you what, the Crusaders are doing great, but the mindset is that you have to think like a New Zealander. You have to accept that this is your home, and you're here to build this country. You've left the old one. You've run away from it, and you've arrived. So now that you are here, contribute to being here. Don't go and go, but in South Africa I had this, and but in South Africa I had that. Forget that. That's gone. You have to say, now that I'm in New Zealand, I only need X. I don't need all the stuff I had, or I'm going to get what I had. You know what I'm saying? You got to have the right kind of attitude of being in New Zealand now. Getting to New Zealand was a challenge. I worked my butt off. I went through chaos. I'm here. So I have to have the right attitude now that I'm here to grow my future here. I think, as I said from the beginning, you have to have the mindset, or you got to have made the decision. The decision comes with the commitment to I am leaving. You can't stand with one foot in South Africa and one foot in New Zealand. Once you've made that commitment and you say I am leaving, then you have to put the ball in motion. You can't say, but I'll first look for a job and then I'll sell my stuff here. It's not the case. When you get that job, you got to be able to walk in the door. You got to have all ties severed. So that's my first thing. Get that in the way. If you're committed, get rid of South Africa, sell everything, be ready to stand on an aeroplane. Have all your paperwork in place. And that list of paperwork, it's not quick to get, especially when it involves the government in South Africa and your police clearance and all of that. It takes weeks to get that. So do it immediately. That's the first thing. Do the rest of all the stuff, the paperwork and your medicals and all of the rest of it. Have everything in order for you to go, and then find a job. Whether you find it online and you do it that way, you got to have the mindset that you're going. So it'll force you to look harder. It'll make you accept the fact that you're not wanted, you're not needed, but you want to be wanted. So you have to make sure that your CVs, the coaching that we did, everything is in line with the New Zealand way of life. Or else you're going to be shouting at a wall that's not listening. The fact that I came across, took all the coaching that you gave me, took the New Zealand way of approaching people with my CV, changing my CV is what we also did. The video CV that we did, we changed that so that it spoke to the New Zealand culture. It spoke to the New Zealand way of hiring people. Bringing all that knowledge, arriving here in New Zealand, going to every single town, knocking on every single door, and presenting what I did is, how I got you. And you got to have how I got you because I've left there. And that was my mindset from the go,
You're not wanted. You have to work to be needed. Perfect quote. And the way that you went about it, no prisoners. You just went everywhere and did everything. And in 2.5 weeks, 6 written job offers. Totally amazing. And you met 100, I believe. Was it 100 approximately people?
Yeah, it was 103 people that I actually went physically, spoke to, and handed CVs to. Out of those, as I say, the 6 written offers that were on the table, a couple of them were referral calls back, and then went into one specific company. It was called Fisher and Paykel, a very big company here, and they have a medical division which spoke to the company that I came from. I first spoke to some young lady who was in HR that had no idea of the job that actually had been advertised. I'd already been turned down when I did the application online. She went and spoke to the person that actually placed the advertisement. She was totally aware of the fact that I'd done the application and it was turned down. Then I did a video, a telephone video, and then she got the guy who's in the department to contact me. So I went to 5 different people before I received that offer on the table. And that was, I'd already been turned down. It was not giving up. Walking in there, talking to some arbitrary young lady that had nothing to do with anything in the department, but the Kiwi way of helping you out and being nice and kind to the people, and it helps being in their face, and that got me that offer. And that offer was sitting on the table as well, in Auckland. But yeah, it took the constant going back and driving it. You mustn't be in their face and pushy, because they're going to push you straight out the door. You've got to be in their face, but in such a manner that you are presenting yourself to be an asset to that company. So just be careful on how you approach people. You don't want to come up against people in New Zealand as being aggressive, because of our drive and the way we talk to people. Your posture in interviews, your posture when you're speaking to people, be aware of that. Don't be leaning on the table because you are now in their face. So you have to make people comfortable, with you. The other thing is language. We have a strange accent, in comparison to the Kiwis. I've found that the Kiwis kind of speak with a blur or a slur, but the words kind of roll into each other. And sometimes it's difficult to hear exactly what they're asking you or what they're saying. So you got to be really patient with the people speaking to you and interviewing you. And you can't say, what did you say? Because now that's like coming across as aggressive. You've got to, be real delicate about how you're asking for them to repeat themselves. The other thing is they battle to understand us, because we don't speak with the same kind of accent and we don't roll our words into each other. And I found a lot of my friends who are Afrikaans speaking battled even more in interviews, battled even more with the way that they pronounce the words, and for the Kiwi people to understand them. And you got to really take on listening to how the people speak in New Zealand, and kind of adapt that to your own speech, so that it's easier for them to understand when you're talking to them. And don't talk a lot. I talk too much. I always talk too much. So so you have to back it down a bit, and you have to get to the point. Kiwis, they kind of switch off after the first couple sentences, and then they start drifting and looking elsewhere, and you feel like you're being offended, but it's the case that you've already said too much. They've heard what they want to hear. You have to be able to focus on what they want to hear within the first couple sentences that you bring in to them, and you've got to kind of adapt so they can understand you clearly. I was fortunate enough that, I was a qualified electrician, but I kind of branched into a lot of different areas and got a lot of expertise through the other trades that I was involved with. But when you're looking for that job, I was fortunate enough that I had several passages that I could go down. I had CVs designed and angled to specific different jobs, from facilities to mechanical to electrical. I was lucky to have a broad spectrum of my skills. It doesn't mean that you have to be qualified within everything. It was just lucky I had one qualification, but the companies that I approached and got offers on the table for mechanical and for facilities, my full-on qualifications are those are minor, but the amount of time and the skill set that I have within those, they were more interested in that than the qualification. They need experience, they need skills, and they need things that you can do within a specific job space. So, it wasn't crucial to having that qualification. The specific job that I've got now overlaps between mechanical and electrical, which is perfect for me because I enjoy both sides of the spectrum. Also helped me with my choice of job. But all I can say is that you know, it's not always, we're only going to hire you if you're qualified. They hire you for your skills here as well. They hire you for the skills and they get you qualified. This is where the training comes in, that what the guys offer here as well. So it's really refreshing. You know, there's amazing beaches on the North Island, and the sights, the skiing was fantastic. Because remember, when I arrived here in what was September, beginning of September, it was still snow on the mountain. So the ski lifts were still operating, and the snow skiing was really good fun. So every weekend we were up on the slopes skiing. Now that the snow's all gone, we're up on the slopes riding the bicycles. And fishing is great. Salmon season's opening soon. Trout fishing is good. If you're into hunting, hunting is really good. It's hard work hunting compared to South Africa. Different animals, different terrain, but it is a South African tradition, and just slotted into what we're about from South Africa. So yeah, the outdoors in South Island has been really fantastic. If I were a beach bunny, like from Durban, or if I was coming from Cape Town, Wellington is, you know, it doesn't have a fantastic beach, but it's got a beach, and it's pretty much the same as Cape Town. The water's, you know, not so friendly, but Auckland and Turanga, I think that's how you say it, Turanga, those are fantastic beaches up there, Waterwa side. So, you know, yeah, if I were coming from Durban, I would point to somewhere in that area and kind of feel at home as well, you know.
So the hunting is quite different.
Yes, it's it's very steep. All the docklands are incredibly steep. So yeah, a lot of uphill, downhill shots, but it's great hunting anyway. Hunting is hunting. It's always fun. Eh?
Coming from South Africa and being at the top of your position there, and then coming here. Speak to, I'm interested in your views. Some people really battle with that. I know that sometimes people feel that it's important to get a nice car right away. Sometimes they'll listen to you, sometimes not, but it's sort of a tendency, you know, to get that image out there as soon as you can. But what I found is here it doesn't really matter so much. There's quite a difference about that. It's more about who you are, it seems like.
Yeah, well, you walk into a parking lot in front of any company. Yeah, you're going to see some Porsche Cayennes, or you're going to see some Porsches and some really fancy Mercedes and all the rest of it. Well, you know, your boss would walk out of the building and maybe get into a ute. You know, it's not a case of that Porsche belongs to the boss. That Porsche could belong to one of the workers. It's immaterial to who you are, to what vehicle you have here. So a lot of you know, upper management are driving normal run-of-the-mill Mazdas. A ute it's a bakkie, double cab bakkie or something like that. I mean, all the managers are driving middle of the range vehicles. There's no, you have to have a Mercedes, you have to have a BMW because you're in management. It's not the case. And the houses as well. All the houses are pretty much the same. They all have the same flavor. They all have the kind of same layout. They all, there's no real difference. Some of them are. One thing I found is when you drive down the road and you look, the houses with the messy lawns, they're normally rented by South Africans. so that's a dead giveaway, guys. Mow your lawn if you get to. So yeah, so you know, there's no real I have to live in a fancy area. remember, we're arriving in New Zealand and we are fresh. We're starting afresh. So, yeah, if you're fortunate to buy a fancy car and you're fortunate enough to rent an expensive house, because you're going to take 2 years before you can buy a house anyway, so be it. You're fortunate that you can do it, but it doesn't have to be. You don't have to have that fancy car. You can rock up to work on a bicycle, and that's a true story. Even the top management come to work on bicycles here, and it's got nothing to do with image. It's all to do with the responsibility that you have in the workplace, whether you're a boss or not. They get, they deal with their responsibility, top of the food chain to the bottom of the food chain. There's no messing around with that. But let me tell you, there are some beautiful houses on the hills. There's Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and Porsches, the same as back in South Africa. So if you can afford one, go for it. But you don't have to have it. You really don't have to be an image boy coming out of management. I mean, it's not a case here. It doesn't affect anything.
Another thing that would be interesting to hear from you is the management and worker relationship, how the differences were there.
Yeah, the managers that I've found, right from the CEO, he comes and sits in the same canteen as what the guys working on the machines sit in. There's no, now that I'm management, do I need my PA to go and get my coffee or to whatever. Here, the top boys of Caterpillar, let me tell you, they've got plenty of dough in the back pocket. There's none of this image that I'm above anyone. They come and talk to the guys that are working on the parts department the same as they talk to anyone else. And it's so refreshing that the upper management are on an intellectual level with everyone, because they got their hands in everywhere, knowing what everything's about. In South Africa, top CEOs will be seen dead walking through a parts room. That's someone else's problem. Another manager must deal with that. We're here, it's amazing that you can, talk to upper management and they listen to you, they greet you, and they have a conversation with you. It's really refreshing when it's like that. I will be coming to Nelson. There's listen, because of the sport that we do, and we shoot clay pigeon, and we've represented South Africa throughout the world in numerous clay pigeon world championships. That clay pigeon family, it extends into New Zealand. I mean, the guys here are super competitive. They shoot at a high level. So we've slotted in so beautifully with the New Zealand competitions and with the clubs and all of that, is that we've got to meet a completely different group of people outside of work and outside of the bicycles and the skiing and all that. So that culture spread from North to South Island, and every month they get together at a competition. So you get to talk to different people from different areas of New Zealand. So Nelson is one of the areas where there is a competition. So we'll take you up on that, and we'll pop in and say hi.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Dave.
So getting back to the question, there's a lot of little things that you have to learn when you get here. Right from getting paperwork in order, getting your tax in order, getting a vehicle to get around. Public transport in certain areas, you don't even need a vehicle really. So depending on where you go, where you work, you in certain instances you don't even need a vehicle. Where to get furniture from, where to buy your groceries from, and how to work out the New Zealand way of only buying something if it's on special. You know, that's a that's a very unique culture of buying stuff. And if you can't buy it this week, wait until next week because it'll be on special then. So once you learn this kind of New Zealand culture of doing things, it is a really, it's fantastic. But getting to my first point of learning all that stuff, you've got to welcome it, and you've got to be excited about it, and you can't be comparing with it. You've got to understand what it's about, get to know it, and embrace it. It's unique to New Zealand. It comes with challenges because your mindset is still stuck in the old way of doing stuff. Sometimes your mindset is stuck in the new way of doing stuff because South Africa has a lot of stuff that is way ahead of New Zealand, and you've got to slow down and think different. So those have been not real big challenges, but they've been, they have been a challenge because a lot of times you want to do something and it's like different to what you know. So now you've got to figure it out. So that's something you have to keep in the back of your mind as well.
Embracing the challenge for anyone who's traveled and loves to travel and loves the idea of getting immersed in a different culture, they won't have a problem with what you're saying, in my view, because it's just the same thing, only it's more permanent. You have to embrace the permanent new culture rather than temporary.
Yes. One other thing that the people really need to embrace is the law and order. South Africa is totally unpoliced. Here, if you're talking on your cell phone in the car, someone's going to take a photo of you and someone is going to report you. You're going to receive a letter in the post to say, hey, listen, someone saw you doing this and here's a photograph of you doing this, talking on your cell phone. It's illegal. People don't break the law here, and when you do break the law, people who abide by the law, they make sure that that you're supposed to be abiding by the law as well. If you cross a yellow line and there's a dash cam on the car behind you, you're going to get a letter in the post. That guy is going to take his dash cam, send it to the cops. The cops are going to deliver that thing to you, and you're going to get a ticket. So you have to understand that you're living in a country that is policed and policed properly. There's no getting around the fact that there's no one will see me talking on my phone. Here, abide by the rules, abide by the law. In South Africa, we've been so used to not having any law, we just do what we want. Different mindset. There has been 1 or 2 house breakings in the area that I live. The cops catch the people that do it. In this specific instance was a couple of youngsters that were a little bit hooked on the wrong stuff, and they were looking for, a quick fix, and they were looking for something to sell that they could get sorted out, and they got caught. And that's the difference. The cops here work. In South Africa, well, they sit around sleeping and waiting for bribes. Where, I shouldn't be saying that, but it's a true story, and everyone knows that. Here in New Zealand, the cops work, and they catch people that do bad stuff. So, the whole aspect around the policing, you have to understand that you have to abide by the rules. If you're not happy with that, stay in South Africa. You know what I'm saying? So that's the way it is. I mean, it's such a pleasure to be able to, leave your car in the street and know that whatever's in the car is going to be there in the morning. You're a bit of a fool if you leave a laptop lying in your car, but, it's not going to be broken into so they can go through your stuff in the car. We don't have burglar bars on the house we live in, and it's street facing, and it was like, well, I don't know, this is so weird because I haven't got a wall and I've got a gate, and it's so awesome to walk down all the roads in the area we live in, there's no walls. The only walls that they have is to keep the dogs in the back so the dogs don't go running out. And it's a complete different culture, but it's so refreshing knowing that you're safe. What you own is safe. Everything in your house is safe, and if something does happen, you've got a support mechanism called government that are going to look after you, and it's really refreshing knowing that. And that's one of the things that has really got us hooked on staying in New Zealand. You know, we've come out a couple of times on holiday, and if you go visit anywhere on holiday, your mind is in holiday mode. You're in a different mindset. I mean, we've been really fortunate to follow the championships of our sport around the world, and we've visited numerous places, and every time we've gone somewhere, we've gone there on holiday, where now that we've brought on the mindset that this is my home and this is where I live and this is how it is. It took a while, it took a good 6 weeks before I could get out of the habit of locking and double checking that every door is locked and making sure that the car is locked. And, it took me a while to get out of the habit. And then, when you get out of the car, you kind of look for the guy who guards your car. There's no car guards here either in the parking lot. So it's to get out of that mindset. It took a good 6 weeks at least. And I still find myself now and again, the cafes and the restaurants are all in the street. You're sitting in the street and your phone is on the table. And I find myself putting it in my pocket and, putting the valuables. I tell my wife, put your bag away. And then I look at the table next to me and there's a laptop and an iPad and a bag and a wallet and everything on the table. I'm like, what am I talking about? Don't worry, So yeah, it has taken a while to get out of that kind of mindset. The actual day-to-day living, dealing with filling up your own petrol, putting your own diesel in your car. When you go to the grocery store, there's no plastic bags. Remembering to go and take your own bags to the grocery store has been a challenge. I found myself a couple of times where I've got like arm full of groceries and no bags.
Yeah.
So, there's little things that you have to adopt. Look, housework, guys, you start practicing on ironing because, in South Africa, we had a maid that looked after the ironing. I didn't even know what an ironing board looked like. I didn't even know how to turn an iron on. But, we've got around the challenges of ironing and we've selected what needs to be worn because what needs to be ironed afterwards. And just housekeeping and all the rest of it. You take on new responsibilities, you take on new way of life, you kind of live around not messing stuff up where, that has been a real different mindset for us. We were really spoilt and we had a gardener and we had a maid in the house and you're looking at the gardener now and actually the maid sometimes. But, it's such a quick transition. It took us 6 weeks, to realize that there's certain things that you have to do, certain things you have to get done, and how you live and adapt. As human beings, we're amazing because we adapt so quickly. And now that we've adapted, we've become New Zealanders or Kiwis, and got the right kind of mindset around how we live. It's really amazing, yeah. So it's all I can say is that when the guys have made up their minds to arrive in New Zealand and they've cut the umbilical cord of South Africa and they're committed to finding that job, it's not that you can just walk into any job and walk into any building like I did. I don't think I would have managed to have done what I did without having the conversations that I'd had with you. I mean, when we first started talking, I'd sent out numerous CVs. They were all bouncing straight back in my face. So there's certain tricks that you taught me around the CV layouts, and that seemed to help. We got a little bit more response. And then when we started making the calls in the middle of the night in South Africa, and you were on the line talking to the companies, we got that little bit more interest, and the guys were talking a little bit further. And that's what edged me on to take what you had taught me to actually arrive at the front door, knock on the door, and deliver my CV. So there are probably, fewer jobs than you think out there. But in saying that, there are jobs available all over in every aspect. It's on you to make that job happen. You have to take what you taught me, and I've had to arrive at those doors and take that advice and follow it through. If you don't succeed, you've got to keep knocking. And if you don't keep knocking, you're not going to get anything.